What's going on, everybody out there? Yes, I'm back with a brand new video finally. This is going to be part 12 of my hip-hop CD shelf by shelf collection overview series, and part 1 of the D's. Now I think I'm probably going to break this down into like 4 parts for the D section, kind of like the last one. There's a lot of D's, and the DJ section alone is massive, so that's going to be like the longest video, so I'm going to have to break this up into parts again, obviously. But without further ado, yeah, let's get into this. But first off, if you want to possibly, engage in the video and stuff, leave comments down below, give it a like and stuff like that. These videos don't get much love, so it's a little bit taxing to do these at times also. So but if you show me love, man, I'll be more inclined to make these a little quicker. And it's not like I don't want to make these. I just came off doing 31 Days of Horror, and also making a ton of videos, so that's why I wasn't doing these for the last month. It's very, very exhausting making a lot of videos like that. But anyways, guys, I'm back, and yeah, so let's get into this. All right, so first up here is D12. I think I said that was going to be first up. Is Devil's Night. When did this shit come out? 2001. Man, this is one of those albums I thought when it first came out was actually a lot of fun. I didn't love it even back then, and I grew an appreciation for it, over the probably year after it came out and stuff. But then, it went onto the shelf, and then years later I listened to it and I was like, I don't know about this. I popped this in a couple years back to just revisit it, and man, I gotta say, man, this shit is actually really corny. There's some fucking corny shit on this. It's not horrible by any means, but honestly, like a lot of this stuff, this older Eminem shit, I can't really do that much. But like, I used to love That's How. It just doesn't come off that great, but there is still some pretty good songs. Like Ain't Nothing But Music is really cool and stuff, and we know fight music. There's tons of stuff on here, but it is what it is. You either like it or you don't. I'm kind of whatever. Now this is an album right here, D12 World, that I never cared for. I felt like this album, I don't know what it was. It felt like it was rushed, or maybe it is 2004, so I'm thinking Eminem was probably completely fucking spaced out at this time. I don't know. This is about the time he did Encore, I think. I guess, I don't know, maybe in that realm, and that is like just an atrocious album. But this one right here just didn't really do anything for me at the time. I revisited it a couple years ago when I did the first album, and this is just, I cannot do this album at all. It's not good. Yeah, so the Beat Miners, Brace for Impact, of course. The amazing production duo from Duck Down. I always thought this was very interesting. This was released on Ruckus and not on Duck Down, even though it is, Ruckus was distributed through Priority, which I think Duck Down is also a sub-label of Priority also. So it kind of makes sense that they were on here, kind of, but at the same time, it's still interesting it's not on Duck Down. I think this is super fucking dope, man. Look at the feature list on here. There's so many good MCs on here, a lot of good tracks. The Beat Miners production had changed quite a bit by this time, from the 90s to this point. In fact, like, sometimes you can't even recognize that it is a Beat Miners beat, even today and shit, because they've changed their style so much, which, can be a good thing and can also be a bad thing for the purists out there that like that kind of retro, signature sound, like a Primo or a Pete Rock or a Large Pro or something like that. But, it is what it is. But this is a really fucking dope record. You got Talib Kweli in there, of course. At the time, he would have still been signed to Ruckus, I think, at the time. So, yeah, it's an interesting track listing here. You got Geo Felony, Roscos, you got Diamond D on here. Billy Flames of Shades of Brooklyn, which is cool. And then there is a Shades of Brooklyn song, which is Drama on here. Cocoa Brothers, a.k.a. Smith & Wesson, makes a lot of sense. Last Emperor, that's dope. Freddie Fox, so all over the place. Naughty by Nature with Thug Love. It's crazy, man. I think this is a really dope record. And actually, this one right here I thought was really good, too. Fully Loaded with Static on here. Yeah, Beat Miners, their second effort, which came out a few years later, and the production on here definitely was a little bit different. But yeah, we got some KRS One. Last Emperor's also on here with Wordsworth. J Live, everybody knows my love for J Live. I love him. Live from the Master Control Part 2 at Dilated Peoples, Charlie Tune and Wordsworth. Who else? Last Emperor's on here. John Gray was on here. Yeah, this one wasn't as good, but it was still really dope. I think it's kind of underrated, actually, to be honest. Here's an album I don't really see many people talk about, probably for good reason, but Daddy-O, of course, from Stetsonic. You can be a daddy, but never a daddy-o. That title is so corny. But it is what it is. 1993. Yeah, it's very hit and miss. There's a couple decent tracks on here. He's got that song Kid Capri on here. But overall, pretty forgettable, to be honest. It's definitely... I like Daddy-O as a rapper, though, man. I think Daddy-O is actually pretty solid. Never really gets talked about because a lot of rappers from groups never get really talked about as much until... You know, it's kind of like Black Thought. He was never mentioned as one of the greatest of all time until he did that fucking freestyle and Funk Flex, and then everyone's like, "Oh, he's the greatest of all time." But if you're an old school Roots fan, you knew what was up. But yeah, Daddy-O, even Stetsonic was always dope. But yeah, not really the greatest. You got some YZ on here. Look at that YZ, the holy one. Yeah, it is what it is. It's just kind of a collection item to have because I just never see anybody with that. Now, speaking of fucking amazing albums, The King and I, contemporary Jeep music. New York-based group, so dope, man. The song Tears, you know that track. This is an incredibly dope album. I'm not sure where in New York these guys are actually from, to be honest, but yeah, this one came out in 93, I think. It's more 93 flavor right here. This was super underrated for years, man. I never heard anyone talk about this until, you know, probably when I first started doing YouTube. I saw The Odd Person kind of talk about this and shit like that, but it just felt like this one went under the radar. I know it sold like shit when it came out, probably because it was 93, and really the only things that were selling in 93 were fucking West Coast albums. But yeah, that's a criminally underrated, amazing album. The Lynch Mob, Gorillas in the Mist, produced by Ice Cube. Hardcore political street shit. This is fucking, you know, the first time I heard this album when it first came out, which would have been in what, 92 this album came out, it blew my fucking shitter out, man. I was like, this is crazy. And, you know, Ice Cube doesn't really get known as a producer all that much, even though he has produced a lot of records in his career. You know, with individual songs and, you know, in albums and things like that. His production on here is awesome, dude. I love the production. I mean, right from Buck the Devil, man, to Inside the Head of a Black Man is crazy. Freedom Got an AK. Of course, with Be Real, Ain't Got No Class. Yeah, Gorillas in the Mist, All My Nuts. Like, You and Your Heroes. That song, You and Your Heroes, is just insane. I mean, that's some fuck whitey shit, or yeah, right there. But, you know, it is what it is. But awesome album. Classic material. Then we got Lynch Mob's follow-up, Planet of the Apes, which came out, was it 2 years later? And now, this album was a little bit different because... T-Bone was replaced by Malky from Yoko Malky of Ruthless Records fame. They put out a really dope record, I think in 91, 92, something like that. They were the ones that used the money beat that Bone Thugs and Harmonies used. But yeah, this album right here was definitely For the Love of Money. That's what I'm thinking. They were the first ones to use that beat, and then Bone Thugs made it popular. This one actually had some joints on it though, man. Yeah, because I forgot to mention that T-Bone from the group, he went to jail for murder. so he had to be replaced, and then the group kind of fell apart after that. But yeah, Chocolate City was dope on here. Planet of the Apes was cool. Mellow Madness was cool. Environmental Terrorist was cool. Like, there's some tracks on here. It's just not as dope as the first album. But honestly, I still really like this album. I actually listened to this not too long ago. Again, just to bring the flavor back to the ear. Pull some Craig Mack there and get reacquainted with it, and I quite enjoyed it. Brat's Functified record, produced by Jermaine Dupri. You know, I don't think it was ever really classified at the time, but this album was totally marketed as, the Brat was marketed as the female Snoop. Come on. Her style on this record, the way she rhymes, the way she looks, the beats were so West Coast, even though she's from Chicago. And Jermaine Dupri being from Atlanta. It was a weird combination that made a West Coast record. Say what you will about the album. I personally love this album. I think every song is actually really catchy as hell. It's fun. It's a fun album. I think she kills this. Yeah, so that was the Brat. And then she followed it up with Functified. She followed Functified up with Another Tantrum, which came out a couple years later. Completely different sound. Sitting on Top of the World was okay. We all know the beat. Ghetto Love. There's some decent tracks in here, just totally different. Kind of not as hard with the Snoop shit. She still had the braids, but not as Snoopy on this record. Not as West Coast sounding and stuff, but still a decent follow-up. Yeah. And then we got Brat's Unrestricted album, completely different sound. She was completely out of that, you know, kind of Snoop West Coast thing. A little bit more, well, I shouldn't say a little bit more mainstream. This was definitely a lot more mainstream. Look at the features that are on here. I always liked Brat as a rapper. This one, yeah, falls a little bit short. It's okay though, but it's not like the worst thing in the world. Here's an album that I never hear anybody talk about. I know my man Immobilarity 1. I think he showed this off years ago in an update, and I was like, damn, dude, that's crazy. I could never see anyone show this shit off. But Day of Resurrection by that Germ. He's a German MC. That German MC. He may even rap in German a little bit on this record, but it's like 1994 straight boom bap. It's like New York City boom bap, and it's fucking dope. This is a really underrated, awesome record. I think you can still pick this up for relatively, I don't think it's crazy expensive. I'm not 100% sure. He might not even rap in German. I can't remember. Maybe he does. But this is just straight boom bap shit. It's really good. Really good. Not like the most hip hop thing in the world, but Damian Marley, Welcome to Jamaica Rock, whatever they call it. It has its moments on here. Speaking of Black Thoughts on the record. I like Damian Marley, so that's why it's in here. All right, so getting into some Damu. These are going to be annoying because some of these are shorter, you know, those kind of like replica vinyl CD cases that they do. How It Should Sound, Volume 1 and 2, instrumental stuff. Gives you all the years that it was done on here. Pretty cool. I love me some Damu. Some Damu the Fudgemunk, Supply for Demand. This is really dope. Actually, this came with I believe this one, or was it this one? No, maybe it's not this one. Yeah, the Groove Dedication. There's some tracks on here that actually have MCs. You got Inside, of course, which makes up the group Y Society, which is an incredible record. Good stuff. If you're a fan of Damu, you can't really ever go wrong with his releases because this is the Redef remixes. So you got a bunch of Redef stuff that he remixed. You got some Elzai, MF Doom on here, so on and so on. Talib Kweli. This is really good. Again, can't really go wrong with Damu stuff. Then we got Spur Moment trailer for extended play, Damu the Fudgemunk. Very, very short, like 7 tracks, 31 minutes. So, I mean, it's short, but the tracks are long. Decently long anyways, but some more Fudgemunk for you there. And then this one right here, the Kilowatts. This one actually came with a 45, which I have somewhere in the collection. So you got some instrumental tracks on here, and you got some where is it? Yeah, there's Raw Poetic on some of the tracks, which he's worked with Raw Poetic quite a bit. This is really good stuff on that one. Then we got Spare Overtime. Here's the track list for this one right here. His shit is just literally all over the fucking place, man. It's just crazy. There's so much stuff that's been released like from over the years. Like when the releases come out, a lot of the stuff's older, and you know, it is what it is. But so How It Should Sound 3, 4, and 5, double disc including bonus EP. Hiss Abyss, which is really dope. It's actually quite long. Full length 2 hours, 2 minutes. Yeah, here we go. And then you got the bonus EP on here. So more instrumental stuff from Damu, which is incredible. This one right here, what the fuck is this? Is this the Supply? Yeah, Public Assembly. We've got Public Assembly here, which is really good. I should think doesn't fall on the bottom here. Side B. Instrumentals. Yeah, good stuff. Hopefully I'm not missing any of these. These are really hard to grab out of here because they're all shorter. Public Assembly Volume 2. Here's the breakdown of it right here. Like I said, a lot of these things are mixed instrumentals, and there's some things with vocal tracks on them and stuff, and like all over the place. You look at the years as these came out, and you know the release date. They're all over the place. So yeah, this was kind of interesting, man. Breaks with mistakes. It's like break beats, breaks it down to the BPMs and shit like that. Pretty cool. It's actually really interesting to hear that there actually is a couple like beat mistakes and stuff. It's kind of cool, man. Very interesting release. You don't really see shit like that very often. Viginettes, more Damu here. Yeah, Really, really good stuff. Really good stuff. And then we got Conversation Piece with Damu. And of course, we've got some Raw Poetic on here. We got Insight Blue. This was really good. It's actually so crazy. This album was apparently limited to 500. I didn't even know that when I bought it, but you can get this on vinyl too. But this is really good. I made my albums of the year last year, I think. So moving along here from the Damu, getting into some Dane Forever. This is Dane's second album. I do have Dane's first album, his classic first album on vinyl. I don't have the CD. But yeah, this one right here is not as good as his first album, but it has some joints. Yeah, it's okay. And then we got Dane's, I think this was his last effort, Rolling with Dane, which came out, I believe, in 95. It was a 95 album. Rolling with Dane, I think that's another track that uses the Mary Jane beat. I think that's what it is. You know, for a 95 album, it doesn't stick out at all because it's such a heavy year. But, you know, kind of forgettable, but, you know, had to pick it up back in the day because it was Dane. Got some more R&B stuff here. D'Angelo Brown Sugar, classic R&B album. Really classic. I honestly can't go wrong with this if you like this shit. I dig it. We got some Dangerous Dane from Oaktown. From the Oaktown, this is Dangerous Dane's first album. Man, his later albums are so hard to get. They're so expensive and hard. This is when he was a little bit cleaner and not as gangster. When he signed with No Limit and then went on to do his other stuff, he was a little bit more hardcore than this. He was a lot different on this record. Became part of the Dangerous crew and stuff like that. Speaking of criminally underrated albums, Danger Mouth, Word of Mouth from Richmond, Virginia. This is fucking dope. I think this is like another, 97, man. This is crazy, man. 97. Underrated. And I always tell people, man, 97 is one of those years that has so many hidden gems in it that you just wouldn't think of, but this is one of them right here, man. He was down with Mad Skills and shit. That song, Dangerous Mouth of Madness, featuring Mad Skills, is fucking dope. There's a lot of good songs on here. Yeah, I highly recommend this, man. Danger Mouth, dope. Then we got some Danny Brown here. I am actually, what is this? I can't even remember what this album's called. Atrocity Exception. I can't fucking talk. Yeah. This was kind of like my introduction to Danny Brown as a solo artist because I was familiar with his stuff that he did with Black Milk, the Black and Brown album. Honestly, man, I haven't listened to this in a while, but I could not get it. He was a little bit too hectic for me. And I feel like Danny Brown has a bunch of different personalities. Sometimes he's crazy. Sometimes he changes his voice. He changes his style, approach to things a lot. That album didn't overly work for me. This one did. I felt like he dumbed down his style a little bit. I don't know, maybe because it was some of the production on the record was a little bit different. I know Q-Tip produced a few tracks on here. But this album it worked for me so much better. It's just like, he just kind of played down to what his beats were. I don't know what it was. It was just a lot different approach and it worked a lot better for me. This was a good album. Then we got Dark Mind. Oh, dude. This is an incredibly dope underground album. I believe Dark Mind was from Queens. I think they were from Queens. It doesn't sound like a Queens album at all. It was 2006 released on Anticon right there. Like, you're not going to have some Mobb Deep shit released on Anticon, but this is crazy. This is a really, really dope album. And it's one of those albums when you first hear, you're like, okay, I might have to re-listen to that. And then when you listen to it, it just seems to grow on you like big time, man. But Symptomatic of Greater Ill, so good. So good. Hard to explain. You have to kind of hear it for yourself. Getting into some Dark Lotus, which if you're not familiar with Dark Lotus was ICP, Twisted, Blaze Your Dead Homie, and originally it was some other dude was in there. Was it Misery or was it? I don't know. There was some guy. He was replaced by Anybody Killer, and then this is like the re-release. All the other guys' verses were cut out. Very, very dark shit. It's different than ICP and the regular Twisted stuff. It's very dark and crazy. The follow-up album Black Rain, which was, it was decent for what it is. It's been a while. And this one I never really cared for, The Oblique Brotherhood. I wasn't a big fan of this album. I know there is a fourth one, which I didn't bother with, but yeah, anyways, not everyone's cup of tea, not even really fully mine, but I do like the first album quite a bit, actually. It's pretty good. Dark Side Riders with Brother J of X Clan, Seeds of Evolution. Now, this is another slept on album like crazy. 1995, I believe this came out in. It probably says somewhere, 96 maybe. So this is incredible, man. So if you've never heard this album, you need to check out the song Jewels of Evolve. It's track 21. Stop the video, hit up YouTube. If you've never heard it, check out the track. It's like incredible. Every song on here is a banger. Now, the weird thing about this album, there's 22 tracks. Every second song is like a fucking interlude. Like there's only, I think, 10 or 11 songs on the album, but every song is bangers, man. Straight bangers, which is pretty fucking cool. Highly recommend this, man. Slept on album from 96. I think it's 96. Awesome. Love Brother J, man. Love me some X Clan. DOS Effects, dead serious. Don't really have to say too much about this. It's diggity dope, right? Yeah, I mean, the whole album is just a single. Like, every song is like fucking so... It's just a single, man. It's DOS Effects, man. We all love DOS Effects. One of my all-time favorites. I know a lot of people didn't like them back in the day. There was too gimmicky with the diggity dope and, you know, the giggity shit and stuff. But come on. It is what it is. This is my personal favorite DOS Effects album, Straight Up Suicide. Underground Rap, fucking Freak It, Back in Effect, Caught in the Act. Fuck, man, I love Caught in the Act. That song is so dope. This is, it felt a little bit grimier, a little bit more heavy on the beats a little bit on this one. It wasn't as playful as the first album. This one came off a little bit harder, which kind of made sense because it seemed like everyone's follow-up album was always a little bit harder if they came out in the early 90s. By 93, 94, people were making harder records. Not saying content was, the beats sounded harder. Really good stuff, though. And then this is, man, Hold It Down is such a... You know, I've asked people before, like, what their favorite DOS Effects album is, and that's what I like about, you know, being a hip-hop fan. People's opinions sometimes, if you have your own opinion, varies quite drastically, especially with DOS Effects. And I did a poll one time, and so many people said, you know, Dead Serious, so many people said Straight Up Suicide, so many people said Hold It Down. I was just shocked at, like, how much love this album got, which is awesome, because this album is criminally underrated, because their first albums, I don't think people were expecting much from this album. That came out in 95. But let's face it, man, represent the real real hip hop. I mean, Microphone Master. I mean, Hold It, No Dig. There's so many fucking songs. That's the one thing with DOS Effects. They were like hit makers, man. You know, not pop hit makers, pop hit songs, but just great, dope hip hop hits. You know what I'm saying? But Hold It Down was incredible. Then they followed up with Generation Effects, which came out, I believe, in, was it what year did this, was it 90, was it 98? About 3 years later? Yeah, I think it was about 90. It's still in the 90s. Totally different, man. Totally different. But you got Rap Scholar on here with Redman. There were some dope songs on here. There really was, man. No doubt with fucking MOP and Teflon. We got both Rap Scholars on here. Generation Effects. Different sound on the record, but it was still pretty cool. I never picked up their last album. I should get around to getting that record. They did put out a 5th album. Best of DOS Effects. I probably picked this up back in the day. I think it was one of those like $5 HMV albums that was sitting around, and I was like, well, might as well just grab it. I think it's got a couple remixes, whatever. I think nothing exclusive though. Smoke on Records released DOS Effects is Straight from the Vault, right there. Yeah, dope. Yeah, so Smoke on Records out of Germany. This is worth having. It's got some pretty dope stuff on here. Bonus remixes and some unreleased stuff and shit like that. Pretty cool. I like shit like that. So how long is this video? Holy shit, we're only at 23 minutes. Damn. All right, hurry this up here. David Banner, Mississippi, the album. I like David Banner. He's a dope producer, actually. He's got some pretty good southern shit. I know a lot of people don't really care for him. Little Flip, that guy's name always kills me, man. I don't know why. Little Flip always makes me laugh. I think he's the dude that did that. He's got that album or mixtape where they dress like a fucking leprechaun. Is that Little Flip? Makes me laugh. But this is actually pretty good. Now, this album is one of the biggest surprises. I could not believe that David Banner and Ninth Wonder did a record together called Death of a Pop Star. It's a shorter album, 10 tracks. Oddly worked. It really did. I thought it was pretty dope. Two different worlds of southern music making right here, and it just kind of worked for me. I don't know. I liked it. Then what do we got here? We got this fucking David Bars. I hate these slim lines. They drive me nuts. The Barcode. We got Primo, Buck Wild, Lord Finesse, Showbiz, Beat Miners. Production's amazing. It's good. It's not great. I feel like it's just a little bit too short for what it is. Like, look at the length on this, man. It's so short. It's good, but like I said, it's not phenomenal. It could, with that production lineup, it should be a little bit better, but I still liked it though. The Day Laborers and Rain. The Day Laborers, all produced by Rain, Deep Space Soul. Kind of like, I think it came out in 2012. It's a little bit more up-tempo, like underground up-tempo stuff. It's very clean. Hip-hop. It's kind of hard to explain, actually. You got some Homeboy Sandman on here, Mo Pope. I think Mo Pope actually did a record with Rain also. I think so. I think I might even have that. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's interesting, not to be for everybody, but it's pretty solid though. So Youngstas' second album, I do have their first album on cassette. So that's why I just never picked up, well, it's not that, it's the CD goes for crazy money now. But Is You With Me? Dude, one thing about the Youngstas, man, is that they had a fucking ear for beats. These guys always had dope production on all their records. You know, for a teenage hip-hop group that made 4 solid albums, in my opinion, man, like super underrated as like a solid group. Like, not too many groups out there made 4 straight solid albums. I don't care what anyone says, but all their albums are good. The Youngstas, No Mercy, with Hip Hop Ride, Mad Props, No Mercy, Backstab. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. This was probably their biggest commercial album that they have, because Hip Hop Ride was just, it's catchy as hell, man. It really is fucking catchy as hell. You can't go wrong. Solid album. Then they put out a 4th album, which was not promoted much, and I don't think it's sold well, and it's really hard to come by. There's never really many copies for sale, and if there is, they're really expensive and shit. But it's a good record. It's like, it was put out in like 95, 96, and it's very boom bappy. It's very different than the earlier stuff. I like it, man. The Dayton Family. Oh, fuck FBI. This album right here is just hard as, this is gangster shit, man. This is a fucking dope album, man. Really, really good shit. I think 95, 96 maybe? 96? Yeah, 96. Shit right here. Actually, the only Dayton Family album I've ever heard, but this shit is fire, and this album cover always haunted me, man. It's just so gangster, man. I don't know. We got Daz, Rentalation, Revenge, and Get Back. Daz's first solo album on Death Row. Which, gangbanging ass criminal, man. Is fuck that beat. It's just amazing. It's going down. In California, it might sound crazy. Oh, the list goes on and on and on, man. There's some dope tracks. Oh No, Initiated. There's some dope tracks on here. Yeah, Daz's first album. Good shit. And Daz did an album with Dub C, West Coast gangsta shit, which is very modern. 2013 this shit came out, and it came out of left field, to be honest, man. I didn't know Daz has a lot of fucking albums. He does a lot of records with people, and oh my god. This wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I thought it was going to be kind of trashy. I'm like, I don't know about this shit, man, but I actually thoroughly enjoyed this album. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. All right, so this is an interesting one. Dazzy D. I talked about this in a recent update that no one ever watched. So, the Rebirth, the album. This is an album I got recommended from Rappin' and Snackin'. You guys know from YouTube, Instagram. He showed this in an update one time, and I was like, the fuck is this? 96 album, West Coast, I never even knew about. And because it caught my attention because of Ice Cube and KD on here. And then this last track right here has fucking King T, Mixmaster Spade, and Toddy T. Rest in peace to Mixmaster Spade. But yeah, I was like, Toddy T, that's fucking insane. That's crazy shit. So yeah, really good stuff from 96. I enjoyed it. All right, so we got DC the Mini Alien, Avengers Airwaves here, producer album. You know, it's got a lot of cats from like Army of the Pharaohs and stuff. I'm not gonna read off all of them here, but you guys can pause it if you want to check out the track list. But it's just, you know, everybody from Vinnie Paz, Sabak Red to fucking Blackistan. Rest in peace to Blackistan. And yeah, look at that track list right there. It's solid. It's solid. Dead Prez, Let's Get Free, classic record. We all know the song Hip Hop. Mind Sex, man, that track, fuck. Yeah, great political shit right here. Good stuff. Rhythm and Gangster. Actually, basically went back and revisited this album not too long ago. I think probably in my last update, I probably said I didn't care for it too much. I probably didn't at the time. Your taste do change. I really enjoyed this, man. I really enjoyed this record. Yeah, way better than I remembered it to be, so that was good. Couple new albums to the collection. I was going to put these in the latest update, but I was on this section, so I decided to put them into the shelf, and that's Declaim's first EP from 1999, produced by Madlib. That song, Trouble in the West, man, featuring Evidence and Lupac. Oh my God, so dope. This is a dope EP, man. Really, really dope. Love me some Declaim. I'm glad that all that older Madlib stuff that he did with them back in the 90s is coming out too. And then we got, I said, fuck, I can never say this properly. Love the album cover. It's so awesome. Look how many tracks are on this. 30 fucking tracks. A lot of quick little skits and shit like that, but awesome. Plays out really awesome. It's all produced by Madlib and Oh No. Good stuff. Good stuff. From 2001, I believe that came out in 2001, yeah. We got Decompose, produced and worked with, Binary Star and shit like that. This is a great album. This is really, here's One Below is on a record there. Elzai is on a couple tracks, actually a few tracks. This is criminally underrated, man. Decomposition, this is a great album. 2007, I've literally never heard anyone talk about this, but this is awesome. Great stuff. If you like that type of shit, then you'll like that. Defari, I have actually a few more Defari albums that are just on vinyl. But Focus Daily, of course, from the Liquid crew. Yeah, it's solid. I always felt like Defari was better than his albums, but that album's really solid though. I like Odds and Evens too. That's good shit. You're going to get that production. You're going to get those features from the Dilated Camp and the Liquid Camp and shit like that all over the place. Street Music, which is probably my least favorite. I do have the Western album. I can't remember what it's called. I got a couple other albums that are just on vinyl, but got some Threat and J-Ro on a track. That's crazy to have Threat on a track. Next up here is Deep Puddle Dynamics, which is the group consisting of Soul, Dose One, Alias, and Slug. Yeah, rest in peace to Alias. This is great, man. This is great. I mean, if you're a fan of, Atmosphere and Soul and, those guys, what you're getting here, man, it's good. Beats and rhymes. Deep Space 5. From Uprock. I know a lot of people don't really care for Uprock that much. It's a little bit too clean for them, but I think this is really dope hip-hop. I'm not going to name off everybody that's in the crew. There's a lot of crew members. Deep Space 5's second album. What the fuck is this one called? Unique Just Like Everyone Else. That's what it's called. Can't remember the title. This one was really solid too, man. Some more good Uprock stuff here. All right, so we got some Def D here, production album, 33 1/3. Here's the MC lineup on here. Hussein Mackey, Boog Brown, YU. Odyssey, Black Opera, Ken Starr. We got Black Milk on here, so on and so on and so on. John Robinson. Good shit, man. This was a good one. Mellow Music Group, I believe it came out, I don't know, maybe like a few years back. Good shit. Getting into some classic Def Jeff. Just a poet with soul. Yeah, I love me some Def Jeff here. This version a little bit beat up, but yeah, dropping rhymes on drums. Good shit. Yeah, good special release of it, double disc. And then we got the follow-up, which is Soul Food. I think Def Jeff only ever put out 2 albums, if I'm not mistaken. This is another one I actually really do like. It's different than his first album. This was 91. This was a little bit different on Delicious Vinyl. Then we got the Death Squad album, El Nino, double disc. Man, when this album first came out, man, I think everybody was disappointed with this album because, I mean, let's face it, man. We were expecting a shit ton from Redman, Eric Sermon, Keith Murray. They were just putting out gold at the time. This album was a little bit underwhelming, but, over the years, man, it's really grown on me, and I really do love the shit out of this album, man. Like, I still love Full Cooperation. I love that track. But, yeah, Def Squad. All right, so Delinquent Habits from 1996. Sendog introduced group, into that camp and stuff. What makes this album fucking interesting is that one of the only features on this album is Hurricane G. Rest in peace to Hurricane G, which I don't think I mentioned off the top of this video. And also rest in peace to the one and only Tame One, which breaks my fucking heart because I'm the hugest Artifacts fan in the world. So not to forget about them. But yeah, rest in peace. But what makes this interesting is Hurricane G is actually on a track called Underground Connection, which is fucking phenomenal. You know, Hurricane G was one of those female MCs that when you heard her voice and you didn't know, even if you didn't know she's on the track, you knew it was her. That's how recognizable she was. She was amazing. But very, very known for doing a lot of features in the 90s. She only ever dropped one album in the 90s, and then she did an album with Thurston Howell III in 2013 called Mommy and Poppy, which was decent too. But her album, I think My Woman or something like that, great album and stuff. But more on her in a minute, which I think I did mention. I don't know. So yeah, Delinquent Habits. I love this album, by the way. I didn't really even talk about the album, but I love this album, man. Lower East Side. I love this shit, man. Love it. Then their second album here, Here Comes the Horns, which is really... I just dropped the case. And I've done that multiple times in videos because, you know, it is what it is. Another good one. Delinquent Habits, if you like that Mexicano, SA hip-hop. And then we got Delinquent Habits. This album right here, man, not as good. When did this one come out? It was like later. 2001, that's right. It has a totally different sound to it. Some Merry-Go-Round, which I believe is the name of the album. Okay. All right, getting into the end of this here. We got Dela with Atmosphere Airlines. Amazing production album. I think Dela is is he a French producer? Where is he from? I think he's French. Is he from France? I think so. Here's the MC lineup on there. You got some J Live. You got some fucking Large Pro, Anthony B. So dope. Amazing jazz hip hop, man. Really, really good. Now, this one never had a physical release. I just made my own copy, which is Atmosphere Airlines Volume 2. I think I might have printed out something in here. Oh, I did. Okay. Yeah, so I made this years ago. Yeah, it never got physically released on any format, so which is kind of a shame, but that's the track listing for it. Again, same lines, really, really damn good. Amazing stuff. And then this album right here, which I fucking love, Dela Changes of Atmosphere. Here's the breakdown of this one right here. We've got some Dynus on here. It's amazing. Some more Large Pro, Elzai, J Live, J Sands. Shit, yeah. Amazing stuff. Now, and I put this in here. This was translation lost. I do have this on vinyl. I just have a copy on CD because when I bought my record, it had never been released on CD at the time, so I made myself a CD copy. It has been released on CD since. So I still need to grab the disc for it, but this is amazing too, translation lost. Maybe one day I'll get into the records. I'm sure I'll end up showing them sometime, but yeah, so more on the Hurricane G. Now, this is an interesting story. I'll keep it short, but so a couple months back, me and my buddy were talking about female MCs, and he was asking me if I was a fan of Shea Noir, and we got on the whole topic of female MCs and stuff like that, and you know, breaking down what our favorites were and things like that. And I was talking about Hurricane G, and this was about 3 or 4 months ago, about how she's like got one of the most recognizable voices in hip hop. Like every time you heard her, you always knew that it was her on a track. And so I put together, and I've done this many, many times over the years. I did this with Q-Tip, I did this with Big Daddy Kane, I did this with lots of other rappers who didn't have a ton of features, but had enough to make really dope mixes and stuff. And because you would think that Big Daddy Kane would have, or Q-Tip would have a lot more, but he actually doesn't have that many features in his entire career. And after Big Daddy Kane stopped making records in '98, he really fucking just flourished with features. He made tons of features from like '98 to even now. Like he's featured on the new Wild Child album, which just came out like last week. It's kind of fucking crazy. But anyways, the thing is, I used to make these kind of mixes and stuff like that, and I made this mix about 3-4 months ago of this Hurricane G mix, which is crazy. So I took about 5 or 6 songs from her album, some songs from the Thurston Howell album, and then all of her like features I could find, and it turned out to be about 33 tracks, you know, like everything that she worked with, like, you know, Keith Murray and Redman and the Cocoa Brothers and Puff Daddy and Organized Confusion exhibits and shit like that. But it's just incredibly odd that she passes away after I made this mix. I think this is most of the stuff, you know, besides her album cuts and shit. But yeah, to long story short, I was a big fan of Hurricane G, and her passing was just brutal, man. I'm like, that's crazy. And to find out that she passed away right after Tame 1, in like the same day, I don't know if they passed away in the same day, but the news came out in the same day, like an hour apart. It was just crazy. It was crazy because I think they were both like 52 years old, which is super young. yeah, it's just very, very sad. But rest in peace to the legend, Tame One, and rest in peace to Hurricane G. Two very, very notable personalities in hip hop. Tame One isn't just an MC. I mean, he was a person that really championed the entire hip hop culture with graphing and beats and rhymes and just everything, man. It's just such a sad loss for, you know, hip hop in general, because especially the fact that like the Artifacts just put out their first album in 25 years, all produced by Buck Wild, back working with Buck Wild. And then I get the album last week, rocking it on Saturday night, Sunday morning, wake up and Tame One's passed away. I'm just like, broke my heart, man. It's crazy. But anyways, yeah, again, rest in peace to Tame One and Hurricane G. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave comments down below, and hope to see you guys soon in the next video. I know this one's went on a long time, but there was, I guess, lots to talk about in the video. So anyways, guys, I'll take you guys later. And as usual, deuces.